Hello, we're live on LinkedIn, and today I have the very special pleasure of inviting my colleague Jack Rowland. Now,
Thank you.
before Jack introduces himself, we are going to see who's here, who's watching live. So let me know. Do you have a personal profile strategy yourself, or like what are the things that you're doing on LinkedIn? Or what are the things that you're trying to get your team to be doing on LinkedIn? Also, what sits behind all of this is what is your objective from LinkedIn? And if you let us know on these things, then it'll really help us to frame the chat, get it into your context. And as we go, I will let you introduce yourself in a moment, Jack. But as we go, please make comments and ask questions. And we're really happy to stop our chit chat, get and answer some of your questions. So, yeah, please keep those coming. And it does take a little bit of time for them to come through to the studio. So, Jack, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Making my LinkedIn Live debut. I feel like a YouTuber, and I want to say, like, comment, subscribe below. But yeah, I'm also interested to see how video content without the ability to do multiple takes or, edit yourself is going to go. So go easy on me, audience.
Well, do you know what? Just to go off piece straight away, I did actually.
We do that a lot.
Yeah, sorry. I did actually watch a brilliant presentation by Gillian Whitney about doing a LinkedIn Live, and she said it's so much easier than doing video because it's one take and you're done. There's no
Yeah,
going
true.
back, so it's quicker. Yeah.
Just feels like a Zoom video, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. Yeah, it's just like every day with us. So, Jack, thank you for agreeing to share some of your experiences that we're
Yeah.
having with some Pitch One-to-One clients on setting up a personal profile LinkedIn strategy.
Shall I,
Yeah,
shall I start
yeah.
with who I am? I should jump in with that, shouldn't I? So I'm the senior account manager at Pitch One-to-One. So I guess my day job is building and implementing people's LinkedIn strategies. So yeah, I should know what I'm talking about here, I guess.
Absolutely. It's what you do day in, day out. So let's talk about the plan. Having a
Yeah.
plan in the first place. Because I think that when people are talking about their LinkedIn strategy, they're very often, particularly when it comes to an ABM strategy, I find they're often thinking about their company page. What are
Yeah.
the content topics and what sort of advertising might you be doing? But I really sort of think there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's
I
kick off
think the
with
first
that.
thing I think the first thing is just having a plan is a great place to start. I think the amount of people, and I'm so guilty of this as well, is you wake up on Monday morning, you're like, I'm going to be active on LinkedIn, I'm going to post, I'm going to send some connection requests, and it's like, yeah, okay, but there's a lot more to that. The kind of best thing to do is to sit down and first of all have a plan. I think that's a good place to start. And people come at it's natural. People come at it from a marketeer's perspective, and they compare it to other social medias where maybe. And I'm not for one moment saying company page isn't important, or paid advertising isn't important, but LinkedIn was built to be a personal network. It's built to be able to allow you to build your own brand and to organically grow that brand. It's just so different to other platforms. It's a network. It's there for you. So yeah, that's kind of my first take is have a plan, have an idea of what you want to get out of it as well. What do you want to achieve from being on LinkedIn, and go from there.
Great. And I think that combining the company with the personal goals is important. And when it comes to the company page, there's different businesses of different sizes have slightly different problems. So I get asked a lot from small businesses, should I be spending time on my company page? And
Yeah.
then as the businesses get bigger, we then have a different problem, which is it's one page and it's
Yeah.
shared across all of these different departments and regions, and everybody's got new products and things that they're wanting to promote, and they only get so much airtime really on
Yeah.
the
So
company
true.
page.
Yeah,
So
and
this,
the functionality is just not there as well in comparison to the personal profile. So, yeah, I'm team personal profile as much as the company page is important. You could do so much more with just being yourself and building your own brand. And you kind of touched on it there, but there's two points here. First of all, you have to decide what you want to achieve. You have to build your own plan and strategy, and then I'm not saying rip up that plan and strategy, but then sit around a table with your colleagues and work out what their plan and strategy is. Because if you combine that together, you have the company strategy, and you can implement it by each doing what you want to do and achieving what you want to achieve on LinkedIn.
That's really interesting. One idea that came to mind is that you can have a company LinkedIn strategy, but actually your marketers have probably got a different LinkedIn strategy to your sales team. And then, individuals have all got, say, their own personal strategy as well.
Yeah, everyone's just off doing their own thing so many times. And if you just come together, and you can really compound the success that you're having, because ultimately sales and marketing and everyone in between has the same overall objective. They want to grow the business, they want to be a success, and they just have different ways of going about it. So actually, I always say to salespeople, this is your chance to be a part of the overall strategy, to include what you want to get out of it, and kind of build that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there are some things that are the same across all departments. There are certain activities, and that is where the objective is really important, because you can kind of, at the core of it, be doing the same thing, but with a sort of different messaging in front of different people in order to achieve a different goal. And there'll be a different weighing up of different activities on LinkedIn. But there's, a core thing that sort of remains true for all, isn't there?
Yeah, there's fundamentals, that are in place across the board. So there's fundamental activities, and there's fundamental ways of measuring the success of those activities. So as I said before, a lot of people just jump on and they just want to send connection requests, they want to post, but they need to be doing other things as well. They need to be engaging with people's content. They needed to be liking and commenting on other people's content, because if you're not doing that for the other people, who's going to be doing that for you? They need to be trying to have conversations in the inbox. There's so many different things you can be doing on LinkedIn. I've been caught in a few meetings saying you just need to be doing stuff consistently, and it's the vaguest thing ever, but you need to be doing stuff consistently, and it's no one thing. So there are fundamentals to that. It's growing your network by sending connection requests, it's posting your own content, it's engaging with other people's content, and it's trying to have meaningful conversations in the inbox. And there are key ways to measure the success of that. So our kind of beating heart metric, and I would say I'm yet to come across a situation where this is not the main vital KPI, is your connection acceptance rate. That is the measure of success. Everything is driven by that.
Yet, every time I ask somebody, do you know your connection acceptance rate?
I think no one likes maths, that's why.
I think I've had one person say yes without it being something that, I've engineered and sort of created. It's LinkedIn does not make that easy, but it's so important.
Yeah, so because how do you know if you're being successful as well? You need to know what your baseline is. You need to know, is this change I'm making improving it? Is it making it worse? You definitely need to know what that number is, and really have it as a focus.
Well, if your objective is to increase awareness of something, and you post about it, but your network doesn't have those people that you want to see that post, like it's just going to go off into the ether and be seen by,
absolutely,
it's not the wrong people, but not the intended audience.
Not the right people,
yeah. So getting connected in the first place. You can't have an inbox conversation. You can send an email, which are limited, and you get quite low responses from that. I would say use emails in order to get the connection request accepted. And so considering that connection acceptance will go into every single strategy that we ever do, it's a real primary KPI. And I think that if anybody wants to know how to measure their connection acceptance rate, do put a comment in, because whether you're a Sales Navigator user or a LinkedIn user, I can send a little video on that. It's it's a little bit of manual work, but if you don't know it, then you won't know. You need to test and get it improved, because it's about working smarter, not harder on LinkedIn. You don't have all day to spend on it. We have a couple of little secret sources, haven't we, in order to improve your connection acceptance.
The old reliable go-tos.
Yes. Well, I've got the. I'm going to tell everybody about the more geeky one, if that's all right, Jack. The
Yeah, go
research
for
that
it.
was recently done. So our lovely team, who are very data led, and we've tested this in the past, but it's always good to retest things because the LinkedIn's changing all the time, and one thing that has changed is what people see when they receive a connection request. And so when they receive a connection request, more often than not, there's no message in it, because unless you're a premium user, you're limited as to how many personalized messages. You've got your headline, your profile pic, and you've got your mutual connections. So we were wanting to know, nowadays, because we've always known that second degree connections connect more readily than third degree connections. We really wanted to see how is this now with the current interface and what we're seeing. So the tests have been across different industries, different sort of profiles of people who are sending the connection request, different personalized messages, of course. So you need to have quite a bit of data in order to make this make sense. And when it was a mix of second and third degree connections that you're going out to, there's an average of 29.15% connections accepted. So, as you know, 30% of people accepting your connections is not bad. Now, when it was second degree connections only, then that went up to, it was 43.15.
Got to get it right, Laura.
It was 43 point something. And so that increase is actually pretty major. You know, if you think about, these are people that if they don't accept your connection, they don't get to see your post, and it doesn't go any further from there. And actually adding another 14 point something percent onto your connection acceptance rate is it's just going to really boost your campaign. So thank you.
It's so simple as well. It's the amount of time and effort we spend on trying to increase that connection acceptance rate by 3%, 4%, 2%. And then there's this one quick fix that you can just come in, and it's like, okay, you're going to get through that, your connection requests. And maybe if you're trying to target a whole area, a whole market, you're going to go through that market slower, but it's going to be methodical. It's going to go after those people that are, first of all, more active on LinkedIn. And then, second degree connection, you have a mutual friend, to use a Facebook term. Like, it's so much easier. And I pull my hair out over the little details of trying to raise that number, and then there's one magic bullet that increases it by 14%.
I know, but how easy it is to go, okay, I'm selling into a manufacturer that makes widgets, and it's the chief operating officer that is the decision maker across all of these manufacturers, and that's the person that I know will be the budget holder. So I'm going to go and message them. And then maybe they're not even third plus, or maybe you don't even see them because you haven't got a premium account. That's another thing as well. And it's the most natural thing in the world to go straight after that COO, because that's the person that you need to be in front of. No gatekeepers, of course. It's probably them. And the simple act of finding another pathway into that person, an ex-colleague, their colleague who is actively posting on LinkedIn, can be a really easy way, because that COO probably connected to their team. So if you get connected to their team because they're a second degree, then you're going to then open up that second degree network. So it won't just be the COO, it'll be the head of operations and all of their other colleagues. It's a bit like a sort of, if you can land in that company and then get a connection there, then you're going to just open up the second degree connections in that whole company, a land and grab situation.
So true. But you know what? It takes organization, and it takes a bit more organization, but it's just so much more successful. I think we're both from sales backgrounds, right? Like we've always been in the, it's easy to fall into the trap of, this is the decision maker. I'm going to quickly go after, okay, here's a company I like. Here's the decision maker. Boom, connection requests. And I'm going to go after this hell for leather for about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to move on to the next business. And it's like, it's changing that mindset to take things more slowly. And have a bit more, again, back to just having a plan and following it out. So I can see why people don't do it, but it is just the best. They definitely need to be.
Exactly. And it's so important to combine your posting strategy with
Mm,
your connecting strategy. And I think when we think about strategy, we do think content first. What is
yeah.
the content? And it's not that it's not important. Of course it is. As well as the strategy for nurturing and getting those reciprocal
Mm,
likes and comments. But the other thing to consider with your strategy is that it's the more recent connections and that are those that are more likely to see your post.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Just, I mean,
recent.
there's a couple of reasons I think of that. I think it's the fact that they are more, they've recently accepted it, so they are on LinkedIn. People go through
Mm,
different stages of being active and
yeah,
not active on LinkedIn. So you're automatically filtering out those people that, or maybe they're coming to the top, the more recently active people. Is one of the reasons, but also LinkedIn's algorithm is very, it's not stupid. Let's say, like it knows who you're connecting with. It knows what content to push to you, and vice versa. It
yeah.
knows if you're in somebody's inbox a lot, if you're connecting with a certain business a lot, like they are going to see your content more. You are going to see their content more. It knows what each of you wants to be seeing. So yeah, you're completely right there.
Yeah, and we've also noticed that just having that a little inbox message
Hmm.
also increases. And if you've been commenting or liking their posts, then you'll see that reciprocation coming up with the algorithm as well.
100%. I always love your you always tell the or give the anecdote of, if you've got the algorithm reason there as well. If there is a message in someone's inbox, they're more likely to see a post. Fact. It's why you should always follow up a connection request with a little thanks for connecting. But there's the human element that if you hold a door for
Yes.
someone, they are going to hold the door for you next time. And I think that's so underrated.
Yeah.
That there's the human reason there as well.
Yeah, and actually, when you're thinking about, what can I say on this person's post, in order to really get their attention, stand out, and sometimes all it takes is just showing a bit of support. Like,
Mm.
we've got some comments I can see coming through in the studio here,
Oh, I can't see
and
them.
yeah, you can't see them, Jack, but they're lovely. I can tell you, lovely comments, all really supportive. So Wade is saying that he would like us to send the information about the connection rate. So Wade will get that over to you. Graham, I'd love to find out about connection rates for LinkedIn and
Yeah.
Sales Nav. I get ideally without too much tracking. If you've got Sales Nav, it does make it a bit easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll get that over to you, Graham. But the simple act of commenting and showing the support actually, as you
Mm.
say, is that human goodwill, isn't it? And it goes a really, really long way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's really underrated. And then if you do that on scale and consistently, it's just gonna, yeah, you're onto a winner, guys. So it's about engaging with people as well as posting. As I've said before, a lot of people think that being active is just posting content. I'm going to do one post a week. Brilliant. Please don't stop doing one post a week. It's fantastic. But comment, like, engage as well. It's equally as important.
I think we've been talking about a couple of things here, Jack, and we've been
Mm,
focusing quite a lot on the personal profile
yeah.
strategy, singular,
Hmm.
and there's uh, you've got a little bit of an evidence point here as well, which is really interesting when you coordinate with
Yeah.
colleagues, and that's another way you can increase your connection acceptance rate, isn't it?
Just for context, this is something that we're seeing work incredibly well. We're doubling people's acceptance rate fairly consistently with this approach. For a bit of background, I come from recruitment myself, and so this is kind of how I put it in my head. And um, yeah, how can I can explain it as easy as possible. But I worked in recruitment. I was recruiting in data and analytics. I had my own personal plan and strategy. I wanted to connect to these decision makers. But my colleagues were recruiting into finance. They wanted they wanted to connect with people in finance, and HR wanted to connect. Recruitment wanted to connect with people in HR, and it came from that whole thing of you all sit around the table. And come together with that company-wide strategy, and you work together instead of each going after willy-nilly free reign. You just come together and say, well, how can we systematically go after these accounts and say all connect and help each other out? So we were along the lines of all working together and supporting each other. And then we came across a challenge which is really common, that actually your C-suite, your senior execs are far more likely to be accepted than your salesperson. So we know that we want, we want them to be the battering ram is probably not the best example, but we want them to be they're the flagship connector. They're the one that's going in. And then how can we support sales? So we actually found that if your senior leaders are connected, they're more likely to get, to be connected. Here is a graph that we prepared earlier. And this is a live example over the space of, I want to say 3 or 4 months. And you'll see that the pink bar is what we call cross-connecting. So the senior executive, let's call them Joe Bloggs, is already connected with this sales target. The salespeople have come in and said, oh, I see you're connected to my CEO, Joe Bloggs. Let's connect. Now, the pink bar is that sort of campaign. So you'll see that they are, 65%, 47%, 66%. And then the blue bar is all of the, typical connection requests. Hey, let's connect. So these are going after similar targets, similar level people, but just by doing that first step of having the senior exec connect with them, and then, follow it up with the salespeople connecting afterwards, we're seeing a drastic increase. I don't know. I should have really prepared the average connection request for each of them, but in many examples we're doubling the acceptance request, so the connection acceptance rate. So really powerful strategy. It's one that I'm trying to implement across all my customers. If you can work with your colleagues to implement some sort of cross-connecting strategy, it's way better than not. Do it please.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And if we think about putting all of the, I'll just remove this from our, there we go. I think that if we think about all of these things together, if there are any questions, please send them through, because Jack and I are really happy to answer any. We've got somebody else wanting information on acceptance rates. If you do want that, how can you find your connection acceptance rate? I love that everybody is going like, or has been as LinkedIn geeky as we are. It's like, yeah, I want to know that KPI, because it's so important. So loving that, and please comment if you would like a copy of that video as well. Think about this all together, like as just a little bit of a roundup here now, and be looking at all of the elements when it comes to the strategy. And I think where you started was your personal. So what are the things from an individual perspective that you need to be thinking about for just your singular strategy? What are the things that you should be having there?
Well, it depends on the role and what you want to achieve, right? That's the first question. What do you want to achieve, and then how do you want to achieve that? But you will probably come away from answering those 2 questions with a kind of theme, or genre is not the right word, but a sort of theme for your network and what you want to be doing. And once you have that theme, you know that you want to grow your network to be more like that. So you need to be sending out the connection requests to be more like that. You know that you have a certain audience, or you want to have a certain audience. So you need to be posting content that's relevant to that audience. And just every decision you make on LinkedIn, every bit of activity needs to be centered around achieving that and growing your network to be a certain theme. So that's kind of the first personal level that I would think.
Yeah, and on a singular level is thinking about what are your pathways into that company, and thinking about coordinating what content you've got going out based on the people that you're currently connecting and engaging with, so that there's that going on. And then imagine that you've got that perfection there in your single LinkedIn, that then we coordinate it with colleagues as well. So you've got this 2-tier. So you've got senior execs, you've got salespeople coming in afterwards and doing the connection. So you've already got the second degree and the good pathway, and then you're also sort of helping the salespeople to get that there. I think that there's quite a lot going on there. Like any tips on how to get started with that kind of plan?
Well, I think it goes beyond LinkedIn, really, doesn't it? I mean, because this plan, you need to have a bit of a marketing plan in general, and LinkedIn is definitely going to be a core cog in that if it's a B2B marketing strategy. But I would say, first of all, is what is your overall marketing strategy, and how can LinkedIn be kind of a core part of that? So it's difficult to know exactly what to do without knowing what your objectives are, but really it's a case of doing. As just do stuff on LinkedIn it sounds super basic, but if you could just do a lot of stuff, be yourself, and get your own brand out there, Be
Yeah.
yourself. I actually just said that
Yeah.
out loud.
Yeah.
If you do a lot of things on LinkedIn and just keep the activity high consistently, you're going to
Yeah.
see an impact.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
start.
I think the really brilliant things that you said there were like, know your objective, because if everybody is pointing in the same direction, then you've got something much more powerful, because the collective power, if you have three people working together, it's much bigger than 1 + 1 + 1. So it's, really amplifies it. But I think the other thing that you just touched on there, which is absolutely vital, is LinkedIn is not a standalone channel, is it? It's going to help you promote your events. It's going to help you get more exposure for your PR. It can get you participants for a survey. And, and I think that we're still thinking about it a little bit too much on its own, as if it's its own channel.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think it has to be a cog in the machine. It has to be a big part of it. I mean, just as itself, it's a network. It's a network designed to be able to promote your personal brand first and foremost. And sometimes we lose sight of what that actually means. I can't think of another platform that enables a person. I feel like I'm just selling LinkedIn in general now, but I feel like there's no better. There's no better platform for you to be able to push your personal brand and personal identity for so many people without paying. And if we compare this to other channels, I mean, if you're a salesperson, right, how much are you going to be paying for the various other? You could be paid advertising, it could be email marketing, whatever it may be. Right here, you have a way to get in front of your prospects without paying for it, unless you get Sales Nav Advanced, which is super helpful, and you probably should. But yeah, there's in itself, it's such a good platform for getting out in front of people. And when you compare it to other ways of doing that, I think in B2B sales, there's nothing better.
Yeah. Well, we're both big fans. Also big fans of Sales Navigator, and we've got a question here, which is a Sales Navigator related one from Wade. So if you don't mind, we'll just take this last question, and then we'll wrap up. If any other questions come in, we might not wrap up. But this is our last question. What is the best way to use InMails? I have a viewpoint on this. I don't know whether you have the same one or a different one, but
let's see.
Okay. Well, we have had success with InMails to get people to participate in events and surveys and things like that when it's very tangible. Less so when it's like, can we have a call to talk about our services? I don't really think that is the best use of InMails. Also, you're quite limited in the number. And then if you're reliant on InMails and you end up with a conversation over InMails, when you post, they don't get to see your post because they're not connected and they're not in your network. So for me, my number one way of using InMails is to increase my connection acceptance rate. Funnily enough, it's almost like I planted that question there. Wade, thank you so much. You've absolutely teed me up, and not on purpose at all. But if you send a InMail to say, hey, I sent you a connection request recently because I saw X, Y, and Z common ground, saw your post about that, thought we should connect. Just in case it got lost in the ether, here's my profile, and you do a link to your profile, so you make it super easy for them. And then you can actually like make the subject line something like, I sent you a connection, and it's like literally that's the whole purpose. Forget what you're wanting the connection for. Just send that to the people who you really want to get connected to. And it will, as you say, we've got all of these tactics to increase it by 2%, 3%. It will give you that extra little. And I think that's the best value we've had from InMails.
I think that's a great, it's something I haven't really thought about actually as a user. I think that's a great idea. Definitely good. My thoughts on InMails is they've got their place, but you're essentially rubber stamping it as your message is, this is a sales message. You are, you're pretty much putting in the subject, I'm selling to you, and then you're hitting them. Whereas, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because there's certainly value in that. But in the inbox, you have an opportunity to organically talk about something, create an interesting topic, have a conversation. This really ties in nicely to kind of, I find myself banging my head against the table often and saying that like LinkedIn isn't email marketing. it can't be treated like that. Whereas InMails is maybe the segue into that. So for me, the inbox is a better way to be having a more organic conversation about something. InMails is probably where you're going in for the hard sell.
Yeah, I love it. In fact, that just feels like a great place to loop round. So your LinkedIn strategy is probably not InMails. I think we've concluded that. Jack, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so pleased that you've had your LinkedIn debut with us this afternoon. And thank you to everybody for all of your comments. If you've got more questions, please add them in. We'll be we're going to end things now, but we'll come back into the comments and see whether there are any follow-up questions. But I think that is that's it from Jack and I for today. I'm going to play the outro. So bye for now.